funded institution of national importance set by Government of India in 2015. CSEM, that Center for Sustainability and Environmental Management, was established in 2019 to address the social and environmental issues and for conducting the outreach activity for to award our citizens and to understand the importance of environmental management nowadays. So for too long, we have been exploiting and destroying our planet's ecosystem. Every 3 seconds, the world loses enough forest to cover a football pitch. And over the last century, we have destroyed half of our wetlands. The greenhouse gas emission from industries and vehicles is continuously increasing the global warming. As much as 50% of our coral reefs have already been lost, and up to 90% of coral reefs could be lost by 2015. So this severe global climate change has already had observable effects on the environment. Glaciers have been shrunk, ice on rivers and lakes is breaking off earlier. Plants and elements ranges have shifted and trees are flowering sooner. So this climate change is not only limited to environment, it is of course impacting our economy, agriculture and tourism sector. So effects that scientists had predicted in the past would result from global climate change are not now occurring. Loss of sea ice, accelerated sea level rise, and longer, more intense heat waves. Scientists have high confidence that global temperature will continue to rise for decades to come, largely due to greenhouse gases produced by human activities. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC), which includes more than 1300 scientists from United States and other countries, forecast a temperature rise of 2.5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit over the next century. Deforestation is one of the most pressing environmental issues that the world is facing currently. It is the conversion of forested land to non-forested land by humans due to severe urbanization. Also, soil erosion, landslide are the effects of deforestation, which we can commonly observe in Upper Himalayan region. Ecosystem restoration means preventing, halting, and reversing this damage to go from exploiting nature to healing it. This World Environment Day will kick off the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, a global mission to revive billions of hectares from forests to farmlands, from the top of mountains to the depth of the sea. Only with healthy ecosystem can we enhance people's livelihood, counteract climate change, and stop the collapse of biodiversity. This climate change and loss of biodiversity have tremendous impact on tourism and global economy. COP26 and Budget 2022 were focused to address this carbon emission reduction and renewable energy production. So we are aiming for, our government are aiming for to reach 2050. By 2050, they wish to go by 50% reduction of this carbon emission and renewable energy production and completely net zero emission by 2070. We are focused for. Now, Center for Sustainability and Environmental Management is conducting this online on-day national seminar titled "Only on Earth" to celebrate Environment Day on 6 June 2022. Environmental Day is an international event celebrated around the world to place support for environmental protection. This year, theme for Environmental Day is "Only on Earth." We do not have any other Earth or planet B to survive. That we will exploit these resources completely and will survive in another world that is not possible. So we need to stay here. Our resources is naturally coming from the raw materials. The raw materials coming from the nature only, and of course next resource is our people, that is social, that is coming from the so sustainability is such a word which is uh, uh, combination of environment, social, and economy. Three pillars are there. So United Nations also in 2015 they focused for this sustainability development goals, which has 17 SDG goals, and we are aiming to achieve the SDG goals also by 2030. So without India, as India is the major stakeholder in these SDG goals as well, because India has the 1/6 population of the whole world, and we need to achieve this uh, sustainability majorly. Our environment is giving all the natural resources, raw materials to run our business. Social, that is giving all the human resource, and we also we cannot run the business without this human resource. And then next aim is economy. So without this environment and social, these two major resource, we cannot achieve the economic profit, and we cannot increase our GDP. So today we are here to discuss all these things, climate change. So the online seminar will help the participant from different backgrounds, and major themes of discussion are climate change and biodiversity, first session, and second session is on water pollution. So here we have four speakers from reputed academic and research, and one speaker is from industry. So without wasting time, I am now giving I am now switching to the to our inaugural speech, which will be done by our honorable director, sir. So Professor Dr. Prafulla Agnihotri holds PhD in International Marketing Strategy area from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. Before joining IIM Shirmore, he was associated with IIM Calcutta as Professor of Marketing. He was also the founder director of IIM Trichy. He has over 30 years of experience in industry in sales, marketing, and training, as well as in academics. He was also a visiting faculty with Euromed and Serum, Sophia Antipolis, France. He has authored a book titled Principle of Marketing with Philip Butler and Gray Armstrong. So over to you, sir. We are glad to have you in this seminar. Thank you. Sir, you are probably muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I congratulate you and Dr. Parul Malik, okay, for organizing this seminar on the most relevant topic today. Okay, not only in India but for the whole world. Okay, and that too on the occasion of World Environment Day. Okay, so I sincerely appreciate your efforts, and I hope that the Center for Sustainability and Environment Management at IIM Sirmore will go much beyond hosting these type of seminars and do some concrete actual action towards maintaining and managing this our planet Earth, our beloved planet Earth. As you rightly mentioned, this is the only place we have nowhere else to go. Okay, so let's do something more concrete, more action oriented than this seminar. But seminar is always the first step towards building awareness. So I congratulate you for this initiative. Okay. Dear friends, I'm not an environmental expert. Okay. I'm here by virtue of my position. And it was nice of Dr. Arpita Ghosh, who is an expert, to have invited me. Okay, and I basically came here to encourage her and to contribute something, okay, to the good work that she is doing. But if you ask me to speak more on environment, I can't speak as an expert. But as a human being who is an integral member of this planet Earth, yes, I am aware of the challenges that we are all facing. The first and foremost, as a common man, what I face is the heat, the temperature. The summers were not so difficult about 25 years ago, as far as I remember, but they are becoming unreasonable. I was reading a report when I was in Mumbai a few weeks ago or about a month ago, and I was told that this heating and undue temperature rise during summer has occurred mainly because of the trees that are being planted. Most of the trees, and as per one survey, 40% of the trees that are planted in India are foreign trees. They are not local to India. And naturally, therefore, they shred leaves during summer, and as a result of which, the direct sunlight falls on earth and raises the temperature. Unlike Indian trees, who shred their leaves during winter, these trees shred their trees during winter at their native place and not in a place where they are. And therefore, we have this problem. Climate change is happening. And that report was trying to address one of the basic things why climate change has happened. One basic thing that if you could take care and if you plant more and more Indian trees like people tree, banyan tree, and so on, okay, many things can be taken control. Global temperature is increasing, and as Dr. Ghosh rightly mentioned, it is gone up more than 2.5%. Today's newspaper, actually, if you see, is mentioning about the glaciers melting because of the global warming. All of us are responsible for that. It's a vicious cycle, in my opinion, if you ask me. Because of the global warming, the need for air conditioners have gone up. The need for air conditioners and more use of air conditioners has led to more and more carbon emission. And more carbon emission again has increased the global warming. The other issue that I feel that we all must be aware of is the problem of global farming. I'm sorry, organic farming. Or say farmers must be made aware of advantages of organic farming. There are so many other difficulties when we spray fertilizers or pesticides and use fertilizers to the soil. I was in my native place near Pune. It has a very fertile soil. But some of the farmers that they were telling me when I met them over there was that there was a time when they could take two crops in a year. But today, barely they can take one crop because the quality of soil, the fertility of soil has gone down. That's because of constantly making use of these chemical fertilizers instead of you avoiding the traditional fertilizers that we used to have. And that is out of the greed to take multiple crops by sustaining the quality of the soil by using chemical fertilizers. Can we stop all this? Do we also know the impact of these fertilizers and pesticides do on our body when we eat that food? How does it affect our system? Our system is not meant for consumption and digestion of all these chemicals. Our body is very simple. We are going beyond what the nature has made us for. How can we tackle this? My request is Dr. Arpita Ghosh, your center should tackle these issues also. Let us adopt a particular region, maybe in Himachal, and create a difference, make a difference. These type of seminars no doubt will lead to awareness. But after creating the awareness, let us also do a concrete action. And I'm sure you and your center will think of it. If you need any help, support from me, most welcome. Because I'm also integral part of this entire ecological chain. So if I have to survive, if my subsequent generations have to survive, we must all understand the importance of your work and contribute in whatever way we can do. I remember when I was in Mumbai, you can also see whenever you fly to Mumbai, prefer a seat on the left of your plane. And when the plane is descending, okay, you will find a lot of mangroves. But these mangroves are becoming like my hairline. They are receding. Okay. At one point of time, there used to be mangroves full of that place, but now we see tall structures that have come up over there. Residential buildings have come up by private builders. And how have these builders of the residential buildings come up? By shifting mangroves, by filling that land, and those buildings have come up. But these buildings have come up at what cost? Now people have started realizing the importance, thanks to people like Arpita Ghosh and all of you. Okay, they have created awareness. They have started developing not only awareness but creating an action movement, and they have now made the government passed a resolution that no more, okay, no more. These mangroves would be taken back and the land will be captured. Okay, there are strict rules on that. Other issue that we are all suffering with is waste management. I go for my morning walks and there is a nice park there where I go for my jogging, and I find that park filled with lot of plastic bags. Those plastic bags are creating minarets. You dump them in water and even after 100 years they will be as they are. They are not only creating problem because many times they don't get destroyed by submerging in the water. So ordinary persons on the road, they try to burn it. When you burn it, they destroy the ozone layer. If you dump them in water, they spoil the marine wealth over there. And naturally, what do we do? The man who invented plastic must be taken to task for that. But at least let us do something. Let us persuade our governments. You are all from different parts of the states. Let us persuade governments to ban these one-time use plastics. Let us replace it by paper bags. Let us replace it by the Ilya जिसे हम कहते थे पुराने जमाने में. I remember when I was a small child, I used to go to market with my mother, and my mother would take a cotton bag with her invariably because there were no plastic carry bags at that time. So if you are not carrying your own your own bag, okay, you will not be able to buy your fish or mutton or vegetables back home. So let's go back to that old system and invest into few cloth bags. It's a simple thing that will reduce the use of plastic by at least 70% as per one report. Okay? At least it's one-time plastics. Let us try to contribute our bit. And that's what we have decided. I hate to carry plastics. I don't carry plastics. If I'm not carrying my those cotton bags, I don't buy anything. I come home and go back again. But if I'm a active citizen of this country, and if I want to be if I want to have citizenship of this global planet Earth, okay, I must contribute my bit. I'll not take much of your time. You are here to discuss more concrete and constructive things on how we can save this planet Earth. So, Dr. Arpita Ghosh, I leave it to you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for taking this initiative and doing this national seminar. I'm sure you will do many more and more activities in this area and save our planet Earth. If you need any support from the Institute, it will always be there. And let me tell you, we are proud of you for doing a national seminar like this. I wish you and the seminar all the best. And I once again thank all the participants of this seminar for participating in our seminar. Okay, so thank you so much, and I take your leave.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for your valuable speech. Yes, sir. We are not only doing the seminars. So in our campus at I am Shermore, I am happy to say announce that we have done the started to use organic fertilizer and pesticides. Actually, I forget to mention that, and Sad mentioned it. So I it's that's great that Sir mentioned it. So from October 2021, we started our biocompost pit in our campus, and after 3 months, the composting was ready. So from January 2022, we are using only organic fertilizer and pesticide in our campus gardening purpose. There is no chemical fertilizer or pesticide we are using. And next, another slot was another biocompost pit was established on in March, and it will be ready by July probably, as there is tremendous heat. So moisture is required for this biocomposting. So yes, in our newsletter. Website, the news is there that what combination we have used for this biocomposting. So 5 manures were procured from the animals, and then the leaves from akan, neem, and dhutra. These 3 leaves were there to make the biopesticides, and all were reported in our website. So yes, uh, uh, apart from my teaching time, I focused on this and made this biocompost pit through the help of our gardeners, of course, and RAs. And yes, another issue is reduce, reuse, recycle, which is addressed by our honorable director, sir. So yes, reduce 3 hours and 5 hours, that is repurpose, and again regenerate more another 2 addition of hours. So 3 hours and 5 hours are majorly required to incorporate, implement in everywhere. Otherwise, if we need to make the circular economy, circular material management. So we need to do it. Otherwise, everything getting wasted, and these are resources. Nothing is waste. Actually, the food pills, vegetable pills which we are showing today, it has the ability to generate biogas through anaerobic digestion or biocomposting. And similarly, the plastic waste, paper, so all these things should again reuse and recycle. So then only we can incorporate the circular material management. No waste, no resource will get wasted, and this will make the circular economy. And another thing is the developed country, which only focus on this circular material management. That's why their GDP is always high than the developing country. But in our country, we always do the linear management of materials, linear economy we are following, and that's the problem. So yes, we are here to discuss how to incorporate and what are the actual barriers and issues for this circular material management as well. So without wasting much more time, I am handing over this seminar to the moderator, who kindly agreed to be the another. So I am only the organizer in this seminar, and Dr. Kiran agreed to be the moderator of this seminar. So I'm handing over for this to him to be here in the first half, and second half I'll be the moderator in this session. So Dr. Kiran Padipatti is another faculty assistant professor in decision management area, and he's here to help me uh, and will moderate this session. So over to you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, one and all. Good morning, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to moderate. Now, this is the time, a good time to discuss more about the Earth. Okay, and we are here today as an institution. Okay, and maybe as the population, Indian national, then we need to do more focus. Okay, nowadays India's role is becoming more and more in the international sessions. Okay, so I start with this without wasting time. I'll start this session, okay, by introducing the resource persons.
Sir, just a
Okay.
minute. Sorry to interrupt. Can I request all the panelists available here to just switch on their camera once so that we can take one good picture for the press note. Thank you. As Director Sir is also available, and Professor Bhaduri, you are also here. Your session is in second half though. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is there this Mohammad Rizwan will also come? Can you change him to
Yes,
some other place?
Rizwan ji, can you please switch on your camera?
Yeah. That's right. That's better. Yeah. देखो Mohammad Rizwan is sitting already in the forest on the World Health Day. Food Earth Day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It is.
That's very relevant.
Yes, sir. Background all. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to our director sir as well. Thanks a lot to all the eminent speakers for receiving, for accepting this invitation. Without your help, I cannot organize this seminar. Over to you, sir. Over to Dr. Kiran. Thank you.
Dr. Arpita Ghosh, with your permission, can I leave?
Yes, sir.
It's a
Yes,
very
sir.
busy day. We have some interviews also.
I understand. I understand. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much,
lot.
and I wish all the best to this seminar. Great effort. I'm sure you will do many more of them. Okay. And
Thank you,
you
sir.
so much. And
Thank
thank you
you,
so
sir.
much for all the participants for having come over here. Okay. For this seminar. Dhanyawad.
Yes, Dr. Kiran, you can continue by introducing
Yes.
the speakers. Thank you.
Yes. Now we invite speaker, okay, Dr. Sudhir Chatterjee. Okay, he is working as associate professor at the Terry School of Advanced Studies, where he teaches biodiversity and conservation and wildlife conservation management. Okay, he has been working for conservation of forests and biodiversity since past 22 years. Okay, he worked as a biodiversity and protected areas management specialist in Sikkim Biodiversity Conservation and Forest Management Product, Government of Sikkim. Okay, as heads of forest conservation program of WWF India and biodiversity and conservation program of Windrock International India. Okay, he served as a team member biodiversity in the technical facilitation organization for the sustainable ecosystem and land management country partnership project at Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, Government of India. He worked as heads the communities and the biodiversity division and forest and carbon division of Wildlife Trust of India. He received the Whitley Associate Award in 2009, okay, from Whitley Fund for Nature and UK for conservation of rhododendrons in eastern Himalayas. Okay, he is the co-lead in the Global Challenge Research Fund supported project on impact of pollution on forest of Himalaya as lichens as an indicator. Okay, he's his PhD from Sagar University, MPhil from JNU, New Delhi, and he has undertaken a course on plant conservation techniques from Royal Botanical Garden in UK. Okay, so without delaying, I'll introduce Professor. Sir, over to you, Professor.
Yeah,
Okay,
but you have to
so
give me the share rights
yes,
so that I can share the screen.
yes, Arpita ma'am, you can give him the presentation.
Yes, I'm pressing on this right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, you are now presenter.
yeah, you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, all right. So thank you. You have given me 30 minutes, but I will try to stop a bit early so that there can be some question. The topic is biodiversity conservation in the face of global change, that is sustaining life. And at the outset, I would like to thank Professor Agnihotri, Dr. Arpita, and then Dr. Kiran for organizing this and inviting me to this beautiful facility. My world is the life of biodiversity, the component of environment that I deal with, biodiversity. And I always find it very, very difficult to convince people that what happens if biodiversity is lost and how it is climate change is impacting. Now, the global change means here a change, a nature of a change that once it happens, it never comes back. Now, you are not in my class, but this will give you an idea of how I teach biological diversity with my students at Terry School of Advanced Studies, where I teach wildlife, I teach climate and ecosystems, where I teach biodiversity conservation and management. Now, when I show this image to students, so students confuse it with either zebra or a hybrid. It is not. It is basically a quagga, a species that became extinct long back in 19th century, somewhere in 1950s. And then we find that it has not impacted at all. Every year we are happily enjoying and we are organizing Environment Day. So what happens once a species goes away from the earth forever? So should it matter to us or should it not matter to us? So basically this presentation will talk about what is lost, the climate change and biodiversity, what are the strong arguments that we have for biodiversity and present global and national efforts that is going on. Now, possibly you are more students of management, but this is not a class, this is an Environment Day lecture. So some background that in our country we have something like 6.5% area as protected areas, as national parks and sanctuaries, possibly where you go and visit with your parents or with your friends. As a government, we have, as a country, we have committed that we will restore something like 10 million hectares of afforestation. Okay, we have a intended national declaration of reducing the greenhouse gases. Every state, including where you are now, Himachal, has got a state action plan. We believe that if we are able to provide a lot of livelihood to people, enterprises development, then biodiversity will be saved. And then there are newer approaches, the financial instruments deeply linked to climate change. These are the carbon forestry and forest certification. There is biodiversity goals. Dr. Arpita mentioned about the sustainable development goals, sustainable development targets, and there are something called essential biodiversity variables, because when you go and manage something, as I think as a management professionals, you always say that anything cannot be managed unless you measure. Then what do you measure in biodiversity? So now you are talking about climate change and you are talking about one Earth. So there is really only one Earth, but the picture that you see over here, you are seeing that there are a lot of barometers fixed on this Earth, which is a very good indication that your Earth is not healthy. When you are not healthy, then you put a thermometer. Okay, so here we have put barometers on the Earth, and there are certain areas. These are some things that you know. Professor Agnihotri talked a lot about the problems that we are aware of. Now, there are three areas where we have actually crossed the Lakshman Rekha. Okay, the limit up to which we could have disturbed the earth, and we have crossed those limits in terms of climate change, in terms of biodiversity loss, and you would be surprised that nitrogen has emerged as a big pollution which we are talking about now. Now, this presentation will not come in a sequence. We'll try to give you an overview of the kind of research and the kind of work that we are doing. To give you an idea, this is you are flying over very close to Arizona in United States of America, and this is a very dry area. And look, the situation is such that we need crops. Okay, population, there has been a population rise, and we have to feed the teeming millions. So we are not leaving even our deserts for crop. So where will this crop come from? Where will so much of food will come from? Therefore, we need to manage our land very well, and that is called sustainable land and ecosystem management practices. Possibly you have heard that the traditional methods of afforestation, assisted natural regeneration, mass plantation drive situation is so bad that scientists are now looking for newer and newer areas, newer ways of preventing or addressing the issue of climate change. So at the moment you are over the Siberian plains, you can look at the snow, and what I will take you beneath the Siberian plains. So you see a cave over here. And what are these people? This is not a tourism spot. And this United States of America is spending billions and billions of dollars of money under these caves to look at fossils. And what are these fossils of? These are the fossils of the mammoths. And why they need the fossils of the mammoths now? Because they would like to crossbreed. They would like to bring in the DNA of these mammoths, which became extinct many, many years ago, and they would like to crossbreed with Asian elephants and try to bring back those mammoths that disappeared during the ice ages. Why? Let me go back to the slide all over again. Because these mammals, when they disappeared from the earth, now they need them back. Why? Because they are heavier animals. When they would move along this landscape, so they would create pressure on the ice, and the temperature would go down, and so that the permafrost is always remain. So these are the kind of climate solutions we are looking at. I may be going very fast on this. Time will not permit me to take you stepwise through a very detailed explanation of what I'm talking through, but I'm always available once the presentation is over, either as questions or even later on you can get back. So we have lost mammoths, and we are losing animals also. So we have lost the cheetah. On one hand, on the left hand side, you see that and the situation is such that we are trying to bring back the cheetah back to in Madhya Pradesh. Why we are doing so? So the scientists are not fool. Okay, we are trying to preserve our lands. Why we are trying to do so? To give you an example, now on the top you see the beautiful forests of rainforest. Our Andaman and Nicobar Island forests look something like this. This is, although not Andamans, this is Indonesia. These are the rainforests of Indonesia, and this is what is done to the rainforest. Okay, these rainforests get converted to plantations. And why plantations? So that the palm oil can be grown. And possibly you know or you do not know that we are the biggest importers of palm oil. Every ice cream that you have, many of the medicines that you take, women, the lipstick that you use, all have got palm oil. So sometimes knowingly and unknowingly, we cause destruction to our forest. And who suffers? Now, this is the national animal of Indonesia. This is called the orangutan. Like tiger is our national animal, the orangutan will not be able to survive once these forests are gone. So what happens when we lose them? Should we be bothered at all? If we lost an animal, fine. I'm comfortably sitting in my cabin, giving a lecture to you. You are possibly sitting at your respective workstations and home. So do you know what we are losing? We have lost the dodo, we have lost the passenger pigeon, we have lost this frog, and we have lost this Tasmanian tiger, which is not a tiger, which is a marsupial found in Australia. Has it impacted you at any point of a time in your life? Possibly it hasn't, but this is what I would like to think over. Okay, so this is a dolphin. Okay, we also have dolphin in India, and dolphin is what is called our national aquatic animal. Now you know that this is a dolphin of China. China, you know what kind of a country it is. Our relationship of late has not been very good. Even a country like China does not agrees to the fact that this dolphin has become extinct. It doesn't believe that it has extinct. Why? Because it is a slap on the face that humanity has not been able to preserve a species, and it has gone from this earth forever. And it is not without reason, even beautiful publications like Time, prestigious publication Time, like talk about the Vanishing Act and how climate change is causing a new age of extinction. Now, let me take you to Canada. Now, this is the Office of Convention on Biological Diversity. Okay, I'm not taking you through the details. Now, the person who is speaking on the desk over here is a person who is the director of the Harvard Medical School, and he is giving his keynote address. And a doctor giving his keynote address and he writes a book called Sustaining Life. Now, why does a doctor of a Harvard Medical School has to talk about a frog like this? Now, this is something I would like you to think over. Now, this doctor says, now this particular frog, now this what it does is ingests a tadpole inside, okay? And when the babies, they grow, it belches them out, okay? Now the doctor says that this frog is possibly there is the treatment of gastric ulcer, because when you are very hungry, okay, and then when you have got your pepsin secreted in your stomach, you get that burning sensation. So how do these tadpoles survive? Now, this doctor will not be able to continue his research anymore because this frog has disappeared from the forests of Australia and New Zealand forever. Do you know who this person is? This person is Eric Shivian, and he is a Nobel laureate. When he finished his talk, he received his clap, which was more in duration possibly when he received while receiving the Nobel Prize. So it is not only frog. We are losing many frogs, bears, plants, medicinal plants. Let me give you something. And when it comes to managing, when it comes to valuing, we have a tendency to value only those whose value is known. Now look at the snake from Brazil. All of a sudden, we have got to know that possibly the venom of the snake is a treatment for COVID. And now that we know that it has got a medical value, we have started preserving this. So what will we lose if we lose them? So bears, if we lose these bears, okay, bhalu, okay, earlier in our childhood, I think I have seen, possibly you have not, the bhalu and madari natch. All right. Now, you know that bhalus never suffer from diabetes. Bhalus never suffer from kidney ailments. But if we lose these bears, we lose them forever. And this is what we do to them. This is the famous Madari Nash that you are seeing. And these Madaris would go and steal these baby bears right from the forest. And what is done? In the left hand side on the screen, you will see in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, they have a game. Okay, this is a bear and dog game. They bet on that. In India, we had the Madari Natch. In Southeast Asia, they kill the bears to bring in the bile, which is used in the Unani system of medicines. Polar bears are going, possibly would be one animal that will disappear because of climate change, because the Antarctic ice is melting. Our resemblance to our wildlife is very high. If you look at the chromosome structures, it is not much difference. If you look very closely in classroom, we talk about this in details. Look at the chromosomes of human beings in green. Look at the chromosomes of our closest relative chimpanzee. There is only 2% of difference. But what is that we do to them? How are we losing very, very precious medicinal plants that we have around us? Okay, we don't talk about ocean, we don't talk about the sea because they are not visible. You take a painkiller very happily when you are suffering with pain. Where does this painkillers come from? You need, every time you need newer and newer painkillers which come from this cone shells. What we do to the sharks? So shark fins, it's a delicacy, but there's a lot of evolutionary history that the sharks are able to tell. Okay, do you know that the salt concentration in human blood is very, very similar to that of the sea, because it indicates that we all have evolved from the oceans. Now, these are the horseshoe crabs, okay? And this is a living fossil, and we export them. We don't value them. They have survived, and because this is the animal, we understand very well the structure and functioning of the human eye. We don't research. but the Americans do. We are exporting them, and this is a laboratory in Maine which is researching the medicinal values, okay, of these horseshoe crabs. It is not without reason that people from other countries have come to us. They have been plant hunters, okay, and they have been looking for our plants for their medicinal values. So what are the strong arguments? Should we invest in many insects in cone shells, or we should focus just the tiger, which is our national animal? We don't even care of some of the beautiful historical plants that we have in the Himalayas. All the repository of information is in other countries, but not us. We forget often that biodiversity is power. Heard of the Vijayanagara Empire? We always, when we talk about big kingdoms, we talk only about the Mughals. But Vijayanagara Empire was able to keep such a strong army because they were able to trade in spices. How much do we know about biodiversity? This is what is it called, a McDonald's burger which you enjoy. Okay, if I ask you that what are the elements that has gone into the Mac burger, you will not be able to tell me more than 6 or 7 species. There are 64 biological elements, and the wheat, the crust that you are seeing here on the Mac burger has taken 10,000 years to evolve. The wheat that you get in the market, it has taken 10,000 years in nature to come to the form that you are able to eat. And often we neglect the microorganisms. This is Sir Alexander Fleming, and because of his the thrown away orange in his dustbin, he was to discover penicillin, the very first antibiotic. But the question is that we know, we are educated, but still, why do we have to need to resort to unsustainable practices? On left hand side, you see a Kani tribal in one of my project sites in Kerala. He's not hunting, although he has a bow and arrow in his hand. Basically, he is hunting a fish. That is okay, that is sustainable because that he needs for his lunch. But this is unsustainable. This is at Karbi Anglang. Look at this person. He's trying to pass electric current in the water, so he would have a large amount of fish in his nets. When you go to forest, you look at trees, look at the trees very closely. Okay, every branch is a forest. These are lichens which are very sensitive to air pollution. This is something, a research we are doing in Terry University, that because nitrogen is becoming a problem, a pollution, how these plants are responding to it. And what is being done? Mercilessly cut. And these lichens are sent to places like Kannauj, Lucknow, where they are converted to made to perfumes, itr, and these itr are then exported to countries like Saudi Arabia. Okay, and one small bottle of itr costs you something like 1.5 lakh rupees. Now, when we look at electron microscope, this is a healthy lichen. Okay, normally the problem is that you can organize an environment day and talk about the problems. Unfortunately, the plants and animals can't speak for themselves. So we have to understand their language. Okay, so like this is a very healthy lichen looked under an electron microscope. But when they suffer from pollution, what do? They create crystals underneath and to prevent the air pollution coming. So we have to understand, our science has to be to the point so that we are able to understand their problems and design our research, design our studies, design our management practices. So what we are doing, we are on the verge of collapse. We are trying to do a red listing in the country, that which are the species which are becoming extinct, which are the ones which are becoming critically endangered, so that we can invest in them. And not only that, we are also defining our ecosystems. Now, these ecosystems, we are calling them that some ecosystems are collapsing. Now, there are certain locations, there are certain indicators. Well, this is, if you are talking about climate change, the lower right map shows you that your level of carbon dioxide is going up and up. Okay, your footprint is going up and up. Okay, but if you see on the left hand side, your biodiversity, in spite of all that effort, is going down and down. You have the air quality index. You also have something called a living planet index. And there are people. This is an island where people, they wanted to please their gods by making these statues out of wood and stone, and the entire ecosystem when collapsed, the gods did not come and intervene. We are a mega diversity country. We have Western Ghats, we have Eastern Himalaya, we have eco regions, we have plant diversity, we are centers of plant diversity, we have wetlands, okay, and we are always a part of global priority in the globe. I'm not taking you to the details of this. So whatever the priority in the world is, India is always there as a high biodiversity hotspot. We are a center for endemism. Some of the crops that we are talking about have evolved in India. Okay. Migratory species, the Siberian crane would come to India. The olive ridley turtles come to Odisha year after year. It is our responsibility. The blackneck cranes come to Ladakh. So they are our guests. Every year they come. They are the real indicators. If they are losing them, we are losing biological diversity. And this is what we do. Plastics, pollution, turtles get entangled in fishers net. And there are few people who are addressing to their causes. Okay, rescue them and rehabilitate them. Okay, animals sometimes get injured, so they have to be brought back, they have to be treated, and they have to be restored, rescued, and rehabilitated. So we have a very strong set of legislations in our country. We are a signatory to global convention, many institutes in India. So newer financial instruments are emerging. This is called the RED Plus under the climate change umbrella, reduced emission from deforestation and degradation. There are many places in India which has been piloted. I have myself done it in Meghalaya. Okay. USAID supported projects like the land use. Okay, so that their capacity is built to measure the greenhouse emission from our activities. Okay, a new area that is coming up is forest certification. Certification for what? You go to the market and buy a certified electric product, you see the ISI mark. We are trying to provide certification to our natural products so that we are very sure that they have come out from sustainably managed. We have a national biodiversity authority now, and we are trying to come up with biodiversity registers in practically every village in the country. And we go and we train the foresters, the villagers, and so that people know about, they know much more than we scientists do about their natural resources. So we also have to work with our neighboring countries. Okay, because wildlife doesn't understand political boundaries. We share our Sundarbans with Bangladesh. We share our forests with Nepal. Okay, lots of challenges on sustainable land management, desertification we are facing, indicators of biodiversity we don't have. Okay, species specific standards for their usage we don't have, and many references. Certain animals are just few. The dugong, the sea cow, possibly is just 300 of them left, and there is only one skeleton available in Chennai, in Madras. Problems get shifted. Okay, local people still need livelihood, and they are moving on to other species for their livelihood. This physics, students of physics, they feel that there is only 4% of the matter that is detectable. Same with biodiversity. We just understand 5% of it. So this is my university. I'm in New Delhi, Terry School of Advanced Studies. We don't leave our students and encourage them to undertake more and more field work, undertake work related to biodiversity conservation. This is a coal site that we restored. We work with the villagers, take our students there for biodiversity registers. We work for land degradation and neutrality. And what I would end this lecture saying that there's a long bridge. The bridge that you see here is from one of my project sites in Arunachal, very weak bridge, and you have to cross. And that linkage between science and policy is very weak. And I look forward to your generation to address this. Okay, together we will be able to make a difference. Happy Environment Day to all of you. I leave some time so that you can ask me certain questions if you so have, and if the moderator permits. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your electrified lecture by starting with puzzles of mammals, regenesis, rainforest. Okay, so a lot of we are talking about a lot about the species. Okay, animals and plants also, and really you touched a lot. Okay, with the very small amount of time, you touched the many things, and you talked about national biodiversity and sustainable land usage. Okay, so land degradation, everything. Okay, within a stipulated time. Okay, so you have covered, I think 200 years of research. Okay, in the 15 minutes of time. Okay, thank you, sir, for your nice lecture. And maybe if I see any uh, things, okay, like doubts, okay, questions, I'll be asking you. Okay, so after completion of another resource person lecture, okay, we can have questions and answers session. Okay, thank you, Professor, for stay with me here. Okay, we'll now invite another professor. Okay, now I'm delighted to invite Dr. Manoj Kumar, okay, scientist C, FRI Dehradun. Okay, coming to his the introduction. Okay, he's a senior scientist in charge of GIS Center at Forest Research Institute, Dehradun, India. FRI is a, you know about the FRI is a premier research institute of Government of India, credited with initiating forestry research in the Asia Pacific region after its establishment in the 1905 as Imperial Forest Research Institute. Okay, Dr. Kumar primarily works in the field of forestry and climate change and related interdisciplinary fields with wider applications of information technology, remote sensing, and GIS tools. Okay, he has research experience of more than 15 years, and he has initiated work on developing forest growth simulation model to study the functional relationship of forests with with the surroundings environment that could be used for climate change impact studies. Okay, let us introduce sir, and sir, over to you, sir. You can speak about the JS tools. Okay, this is the really required for for this current generations. Okay, so thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will request the
Good.
moderator to say right. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are ready.
Kindly give me the sharing right so that I can share my screen.
Ma'am, Arpita, ma'am, or Rizwan, sir, you can do it. Sharing rights.
Yes, yes, I am giving. Just a minute. Please, acha, okay.
Dear participants, you can
No,
post your queries.
actually, Professor Chatterjee is still now in presenter mode. So how to
Okay.
remove him from presenter?
No, I have unshared.
Unshared, but no, actually, I have given you right. So now I need to
Now you have to get back your right because I have unshared this.
think that that is fine. Rijonji, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Rijonji, actually, I have given the right firstly to Professor Chatterjee. Now he is the presenter. How to take back that presenter role and give it to Dr. Kumar?
Chatterjee sir have already presented right.
Professor Chatterjee has it. I can see it. Now I
Yes.
need to give it to Dr. Kumar.
Okay.
How to do it?
Yes. Now I have this. Okay. It has
Okay. No, now Kiran sir is.
came for a while. Yes. Now it is available.
Yes, yes. Now Manoj
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, okay. Rijanji, thank you.
After very rich and informative presentation from Dr. Sudhir Chatterjee, I will share you my experience related to the role of forests and climate in regulating the climate and vice versa, how the climate is impacting our forests. On this occasion of World Environment Day, although it was yesterday, but we are discussing today. But this discussion actually started way back in 1972 when all the global leaders were there in Sweden and Stockholm to discuss and talk about the issues related to environment. And in 1972 also again again the topic and discussion still remains same, only one Earth. And that global summit in Stockholm was on 5th June, and at that time it was declared that 5th June we will be celebrating to discuss the relevant issues to make awareness about this environment. And every year 5th June we are discussing about the relevant issues of this environment as World Environment Day. And in 1992, 20 years after the lapse of this 1972 event, again in Rio de Janeiro, people gathered together under one umbrella known as the Earth Summit to review the progress, what has happened over 20 years of time. And that time, a few important conventions emerged, to which we are everyone is aware, like UNFCCC, United Nations Convention, Framework Convention for Combating Climate Change. And second one was the CBD Convention on Biological Diversity. And the third one, UN Convention for Combating Desertification. So all these three conventions, people are aware, people are discussing, all the meetings, all the global negotiations are going on. So sir has already discussed and touched various issues related to biological diversity under this CBD convention. And under this UNFCCC, every year delegates from representative country, usually in the month of December, they gather under the conference of party at designated place to discuss the relevant issues and to have obligatory or the voluntary targets to combat the various issues that are relevant to climate change. So looking at the role of this forest is having in regulating the climate, the importance of forest has well been recognized by the international community. And if you see, mainly forests, they act as sometimes they act as a source, but when you are managing the forest in a scientific way, so that rather than becoming a source, they become sinks. You can visualize the role of forests over these decades in recent times. Yeah, among all the sectors, the emissions from this lowermost column indicates this land use change and forestry. Because of the multiple intervention scientific management strategy we have adopted, these emissions from land use, land and forestry has decreased. The contribution of emissions from this sector and rest of the sectors, almost all this column level, you can see remains stagnant. So people have started visualizing the role of this forest in combating the climate change by converting this atmospheric, by locking this atmospheric CO2, which acts as one of the global warming gas, in locking permanently into the form of forest and woods. So forests act as both as a cause and a solution for greenhouse gas emission. Forests regulate and impact climate, but at the same time, they are vulnerable to climate change. So over the a few slides, I will be mostly discussing about how this climate change is making this forest vulnerable and what are the hotspots in some of the area, how these studies actually people are doing. So I will escape this some of the few slides like vulnerability assessment. Vulnerability is the assessment of threat up to what level entity, suppose here any ecosystem, suppose here forest, this is vulnerable to a given exposure hazard or risk. So there are multiple challenges when you try to assess vulnerability of forests because there are complex processes involved, starting from soil level to top canopy level. Multiple complex processes are involved which interact with various components starting from soil to the ambient atmospheric uh, composition of the air and sunlight which is used for the photosynthesis. So visualizing the interactions and how these interactions actually interfere negatively with the health of the forest, it is really a challenging thing. Now, if you see the current scenario in India, as per the IPCC recent report, the possible climate change impacts on Indian forests is visualized in the form of expansion of more moist broadleaf forests in central India, shrinking of temperate broadleaf alpine forests, increase in productivity because atmospheric CO2 concentration is increasing. So it is expected, but there is a limit. Up to certain limit, the productivity may increase, but there will be a time up to after which maybe there will be a situation and that the productivity will decline and the forest will become vulnerable. So with selecting this productivity is one of the indicator. I will be discussing how this productivity indicator can be used to assess where my forests are becoming vulnerable and how to assess this vulnerability. In decline in some wildlife species in a specific habitat, these are the prominent challenges India is supposed to have as per the IPCC recent report. And there are risk of maladaptation which leads to the increase in the climate vulnerability of a system, sector or group. Maladaptation actually is when you are trying to give a solution for a problem, but later on you visualize that it actually has gone a wrong way. One of the best example is this spread of Prosopis zulifera in Delhi. Once upon a time, when people visualize that how to restore this degraded land, how to make the Delhi more greener, the scientists advised to plant this prosopis, but nowadays again we are looking to how to remove this prosopis so that we can restore our biodiversity because this is so aggressive that it becomes very much dominant and it doesn't allow other species to proliferate in and around its existence. So these are the some of the maladaptation related issue. If we see this Forest Survey of India recent report of 2021, they have assessed the vulnerability of forests of this India based upon the how temperature or rainfall is going to increase up to certain level, like they considered rise of 1.5 degrees C in a grid and how the rainfall is varying like less or greater or less variation of 20% with respect to 1860 and 19 base level. Those grids were identified as vulnerable for the 2030, 50 and 80 based upon representative concentration pathway scenario, that is RCP defined as RCP 4.5, 8.5, something like this. Actually, it is scenarios visualized by the scientists where RCP 4.5 indicates that warming potential industrial activity and all those legal binding treaties, uh, our clean technology will evolve in such a way that at least we will have this warming potential of 4.5 watt per meter square. So this is one of the moderate scenario, but in extreme case, when the warming is at the level of 8.5 watt per meter square, then in that case, how the vulnerability and where the hotspots of this vulnerable forests are emerging in this India. So this was one of the approach this FSI has reported. So again, based upon visualizing the productivity of a forest, this tipping point approach, we identified some vulnerability. Actually, this tipping point is a threshold up to which this any system can maintain its position. After that limit, even if a slighter change will bound it to shift to another permanent state, which cannot be restored back to its pristine state. So that is called as the tipping point of that system. So from regime E to regime B, suppose like a conversion of a very dense rich forest into the scrub. If this rich forest, if they are exposed to higher elevated temperature or varying rainfall, they will not suddenly become a scrub. They will try to resist, they will try to manage, adapt up to a point, but there will be a limit for this temperature rise and exposure to this rainfall changes, when any slighter changes will lead to a shift into a permanent scrub kind of condition, which will not be actually regained back to its a dense forest category without intervention, without any scientific intervention by humans. So this is the concept of regime change using this tipping point approach, we call it. So we did this assessment for Indian Western Himalayan forests using this temperature and rainfall as the two drivers of change. And we visualize that up to this 1500 mm precipitation, this forests were able to show the resilience. But after this crossing of this tipping point limit of 1500 mm, they may shift into these scrub conditions. Likewise, for this temperature, we visualize what is the threshold of this change. And after doing this assessment, we found that various forest types are having various levels of vulnerability. If you see, visualize how different forest type will behave with this change in this temperature and precipitation regime. Various forest types show various resilience, like tropical dry deciduous forests. They are their proportion of resilience category is very this you see this high, moderate, and low and least. They are very least, means they are more. To see this tropical dry deciduous forest, this resilience category, if you see the proportion, it is showing least resilience in terms of this exposure being to this temperature and precipitation. And this moist alpine forest, dry alpine forest, and subalpine forest, they have the high to moderate level of vulnerability compared to the subtropical pine and tropical dry deciduous forest. Like for predicting how our future climate will be there, how the temperature or precipitation will be there in near future, we have the various climatic models, which gives you the future climatic scenario, future climate, future temperature and precipitation trend. Using those future predicted temperature and precipitation, people use this vegetation model. The output from those climatic model are used in this vegetation model. There are multiple vegetation model where you can, in a computer environment, you can grow the forest and you can see the role of changing temperature, precipitation, or other sensitive indicators which really interfere with the growth of this forest. Using this, we visualize this vulnerability of Indian Himalayan region using one of these model that is called as the Joules Joint UK Land Environment Simulator for this Indian Himalayan region. If you see this elevation ranges, there are multiple elevation ranges in this Himalayan region, which gives a permanent establishment of various type groups, forest type groups. If you the spread of this multiple type groups, this Himalayan region is visualized in this slide. Except for tropical thorn forest and tropical dry evergreen forest, according to Championship most acceptable classification from 1968, you see all major type groups in this region. So To visualize what will be the probable impact, this region provides you the ideal place to see the role of climate change, how it is impacting your forest, different forest tribe groups, especially. Using this, how this productivity is varying over a given period of time, this assessment of vulnerability can be done. Like there can be situation when your productivity over a year is increasing, decreasing, or it is stagnant. This indicates your adaptive capacity of your forest when over a period of time, in spite of all these stresses of increasing temperature or changes in precipitation, if you finally come to know that over a period of time our productivity has increased, it gives you an indication that in spite of all these changes, it is not affecting your forest much and your forest is still productive. It gives you an idea in a sense that it indicates that your productivity, your forest is adapting to the changing situation, and the level of adaptability of your forest to the changes is very high. But there, in some cases, you can visualize this productivity has fallen over the period of time. This will indicate that those areas are not much adaptive to the changing climatic scenarios. And based upon this visualization, you can identify the grids which are really vulnerable to these changes. If you see this spatial distribution of productivity using this modest derived NPP product, this productivity in higher elevation region which are exposed to more sub-zero temperature, the productivity is low. Otherwise, in lower region, the productivity is moderate to high. This fluctuation in the sensitivity over the assessment period of time. If the sensitivity over in the assessment year 1 to assessment year 2 is almost same, or how far it is fluctuating. If this fluctuation is high, it means even the changes in the surrounding climate, it is impacting your forest and those forests are sensitive. That's why this productivity gap between these two assessment period is high. So this way you visualize the sensitivity and you can see out of these 213 forest grids for this region, various sensitivity classes we were able to map. And likewise, where based upon the trends of productivity, where the production is going high or stagnant or low, this adaptive capacity we are mapped, you can see the various level of this adaptive capacity. And according to this IPCC framework, the recent framework, this vulnerability is basically the difference between sensitivity and adaptability. If you make this difference, you finally get the vulnerable grids. More the sensitivity, more are the vulnerable grids. More is the adaptability, less is the vulnerability. So the difference between the previous two, sensitivity and adaptability, it finally gives you the idea about which forest grids are more vulnerable, which are less vulnerable. And you can visualize here most of the grids are and fall under the less to medium vulnerability classes based upon the present trends assessed up to year 2014. But it may not be the scenario if you visualize it for 2030, 50 or 80. So for the visualization of 2030, 50 and 80 scenario, we use this Joules model. And Joules, actually, these are the required input files for running this Joules model, like what will the temperature, diurnal temperature range, mean precipitation, frequency of wet days, all these 8 input parameters. Under those input parameter, you try to grow the forest from past to present period, and from present period, you give the exposure, how that these all climatic parameter will be changing up to given period of time, say 2030, 50 or 80. Under those exposure, you try to visualize how your forest will behave, and the parameter related to all this comes under the output, like soil temperature, soil moisture, how this will behave under this exposed prolonged duration of changing temperature, precipitation, or wind speed, or a specific humidity. So one of the output is again here net primary productivity. So again, based upon the earlier assessment of trend of this productivity to visualize sensitivity and adaptive capacity of the forest, we can measure the vulnerable grids of the forest under future scenarios also. So if you see this, these are the various forest density classes under these forest grids of this region. And under RCP 2.6 low emission scenario, when the warming is only up to level of 2.6 watt per meter square, for the year 2030, 50 and 80, you can see the special variation where the grids are less or moderate or extremely vulnerable to these changes. Likewise for RCP 4.5 for all 3 time step, likewise for very extreme scenario when the emissions will be so high that we have very warm atmospheric warming, very extreme warming at the level of 8.5 watt per meter square. You can visualize the vulnerability of this forest in this. So this is finally the tabulated information for all this vulnerability in this scenario for 2030, 50 and 80. Red dots actually indicates the high value of the percentage forest area which will be vulnerable. Here again, tropical marsh deciduous forest seems to be more vulnerable under this 2050 scenario. In subtropical pine forest, tropical marsh deciduous forest for 2.6 scenario. Likewise for 4.5 scenario, you can see now this vulnerability is increasing. This moderate and high and very high classes forest percentage for different forest classes, the vulnerability has increased. Likewise for 8.5, this is the tabulated value. Now there are some conclusion that this is the conclusion related to what are the prominent findings under these various scenarios, how the various forest type group will behave. So there is some few important messages, like we should think of including parameters essential for developing these modules. In our long-term study, whenever we are conducting any research, we should consider what are the important parameters that can be used for developing such kind of study. This classification of Indian forest is still on the basis of phylogeny, although this functional trait basis of classification would be more appropriate if you want to visualize the interaction of environment with respect to these plants, how these functional traits actually are behaving with respect to the changing environmental condition. That will help us to visualize this vulnerability of forest to the external exposure of increasing temperature or changing precipitation in a more better way. Researchers should be encouraged to transcribe their finding into smaller modules, simulation modules, so that it's further becomes easy to directly integrate these smaller modules into the final model. As this forestry research, related research, if somebody wants to visualize what will be the impact, the life of forest is very much high. Our research period is of shorter durations, maybe 30 years somebody will be doing research, but the forest life is much higher. So this computer-based environment provides us the opportunity to visualize what kind of behavior this forest will have with the changing surrounding environment. So we have taken some initiative for testing the existing models as well as for developing some new kind of model which can be used to study the relationship with surrounding environment and how the surrounding changing is influencing actually the behavior of the forest. So with this, I can conclude my presentation. If there is any question, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Manoj Kumar. Okay, for your nice lecture on modeling of forestry and vulnerability assessment. Okay, I have seen, basically I'm from statistics department. I can see logistic regression used there. Okay, so there are many tools, models, mathematical models, which are suitable for doing the models on environmental sciences. Okay, so Professor, okay, so participants, you can ask him any questions. Okay, both the Professor Chatterjee or Professor Kumar. Okay, you can message me or you can chat me some these questions. Before that, I'll ask you little questions what I actually got. Okay, my one question to Professor Chatterjee. Sir, Professor Chatterjee, you are here?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. So, sir, yes, yes, yes. Actually, for both things, we are actually discussed about climate change and biodiversity, no? So, what suggestion we can give to the government of India to implement these things, and how we are actually now we are becoming more stronger in the international levels. Okay, like we are maintaining very good relationship with the international level. So, how we can suggest government of India on climate change and biodiversity?
One is that my quick response to your question would be that it's a very complicated subject and there is no one-time formula to look at it. Biodiversity loss and climate change. This is an
Yes, sir.
extremely slow process. So what we have harped upon is the nature-based solutions. So only forestation or afforestation will not do. We have to look things at a very holistic manner. We have to work for the entire landscapes or the entire ecosystem. It has to be a very integrated approach, disciplinary approach to look at the issues of climate change and biodiversity. We have to use the indexes. We have to go for long-term ecological monitoring because the impacts of climate change on biodiversity, it doesn't happen. So if we take a very short, narrow, parochial view,
Yes.
things are not
Yes,
going
sir.
to work. We have to have a very long-term vision, and there has to be a continuity in effort, be it is afforestation or working for a particular species or protected area management or enterprise or even carbon forestry. So anything that we do, so we have to have a very integrated approach towards this. And then by saying this, when I say that we should go for nature-based solutions, I'm not saying that we should not go for engineering-based solutions also. So it has to be a beautiful harmony of that depending on the situation or the landscape that we are talking about.
Okay, good, good. So as a common people, okay, so as a population, yeah, okay, what the measures we can
As a
to maintain the biodiversity?
I believe that nature conservation is an area one need not be a specialist or a subject area. So every person, whatever your qualification is, whatever your background is, can contribute towards nature conservation. Be the profession, be an engineer, or if you're in army, you are in whatever, you are an economist. You find out your way that what is that. I mean, you can do for conservation. For a common man, the thing is that what I would say is that I mean we should be able to be very sustainable in a nature. Now, sustainability is easier said than done. It is very easy to talk about sustainability. It is very difficult to implement it. But as long as we keep our demands low, put lower pressures on our natural resources, I think collectively we would be able to make a difference.
Okay, sir, and one more thing, like we have much of human resources. Okay, so engaged people are there. Okay, what kind of opportunities when we start these two things, like
Yeah.
biodiversity or climate change? No, if the younger generation knows about it, so there will be opportunity. Okay, they'll utilize this
Yeah.
opportunity. Okay, so to do research on this particular biodiversity. No, so what are the areas they must focus
Look,
on?
my experience, I'm traditionally, I'm not a teacher. Okay, so I
Yes.
come from a background which is very much action oriented, like World Wildlife Fund. Also, I have been where Manoj is there from FRI, so I have been there, so I know him. from ICFRE, mostly in very action-oriented projects since last 9 years. I'm teaching, and I would say that our younger generation mostly are aware of what needs to be done. They come out with brilliant ideas. Okay, they are enthusiastic as long as they are in the university. They understand what corruption is, but they have
Yes,
not
yes.
faced the real world. What we have to rather provide them are those channels of opportunity. So I think the responsibility lies more with us, because unless they get their jobs, unless their livelihood is secured, because there's a social angle also. Okay, they, within the core of the heart, they want to contribute towards the environment. But once if they are pass out of the universities, if the companies, if the multinational companies or the domestic companies or our universities, our government sector are not there able to absorb them, then it is very difficult to retain that age group, which is actually very productive and concerned, and I would say that much more knowledgeable than us.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, for your nice explanations on these topics. Okay, I'll now move on to the Manoj sir. Okay, so like you are explaining the models of vulnerability assessment and the spatial variation of sensitivity. Yes, sir. Can you give more details? Okay, with the models, maybe I have seen only one or two models. Okay, can you elaborate different models based on these environmental things? Okay, so whatever the to bring down vulnerability. Okay, more adaptable. You are telling more adaptable. There will be less vulnerability. Okay, you can explore. Okay, maybe you can tell me the different models, okay, where we can reduce the vulnerability.
So models will actually will give you just idea which are the areas.
Yes. That's only like if you tell me more now about that, then maybe participant will listen that maybe somewhere. Okay, if you are able to apply, they can apply it. Please elaborate on this regards.
So if you broadly classify these models, will be one is a statistical model, as you were discussing logistic regression model.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So one will
Yes,
be
sir.
based upon some statistical relationship, and another one is not simply establishing relationship with the help of number. In fact, they try to visualize the processes involved into the growth of the forest, and like sunlight, requirement of CO2, water, moisture, all these variables which directly or indirectly helps the establishment and growth of the species. If you are trying to monitor this growth with respect to monitoring all these variables, then that is actually categorized as process-based model. It is not simply establishing relationship between some dependent and independent variable.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so the classes are these two broader classes. Mostly we are in India or anywhere else, because this is establishing statistical relationship is little bit more easy and comfortable rather than visualizing all these one process linked with another processes, those processes again linked with some multiple another processes. All these interlinked processes at a time, if somebody wants to handle, actually it is only possible with the help of equations handled in a computer environment. So they have this simulation model. So based upon this simulation model, they try to visualize how changing one parameter will interact and will eventually lead to the changes in other attributes of this growth, and ultimately how your forest will become vulnerable or it is not vulnerable, it is adaptive or not adaptive.
Okay, Professor. Thank you for your nice explanation on the topic. Okay, thank you, Professor Chatterjee and Manoj Kumar for giving your time. okay, to come here and deliver your lectures. Okay, both focused on the climate change and biodiversity. Okay, I thank each and everyone for attending this session, and the resource person's time is very valuable. Okay, they have spent much time in conveying, okay, what is happening in the real world. Okay, thank you, professors, for your great time, and thank you, Arpita ma'am.
From our side also. So thank you, Dr. Arpita, for giving us this opportunity to interact with this beautiful facility, beautiful school of yours, management school of yours. And thank you, Dr. Kiran, for moderating us. And thank you, dear Manoj. I'm saying hi to you from Delhi. We know each other very well. So again, through your platform, we were able to meet and exchange our ideas. So take your kind leave now. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, Professor Chatterjee and Dr. Kumar for accepting my invitation and for delivering your speech. It was really wonderful too, and I hope, I believe participants, of course, have the understanding of the climate change and biodiversity and what is its impact, what is its importance, and why to maintain it, why to for this environment protection. And I'm very glad that and very happy that you accepted my invitation. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Kiran, as well, for moderating the session.
Thank you.
We are ending up the session
Thank you.
now. Yes, and from 2:30 we'll start this next session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.